Joining me now is Andrew Weissmann, the former FBI general counsel and a former senior member of Robert Mueller's special counsel and one of everybody's favorites, legal eagle experts, and Ken Zellini, an MSNBC justice and intelligence correspondent. There's been so much reporting around all of this. Ken, let me start with you because you've done a ton of reporting. You've broken a lot of these stories. What did I miss there? And is there anything about this meeting or what was discussed or those FBI firings that you found out in the last couple of hours?
Well, Jen, we've been reporting, for some weeks now that there's been an ongoing purge within the top ranks of the FBI. I just had a story last week that noted that 18 of 53 special agents in charge have been removed from their job, and of that, half of them were women and minorities. So those firings were disproportionately affecting women and people of color. But this was a new kind of an exclamation point on what's been happening, because the people fired this week are some famous folks within the Bureau, particularly Brian Driscoll, who was the acting director and became, as you said, something of a folk hero when he stood up to the Trump administration's plan to potentially fire hundreds, if not thousands, of FBI agents who worked on January 6th cases. And his continued presence in the Bureau was a sign of hope that amid all the other bad things that are happening, perhaps it's still possible to dissent from the Trump administration in some small fashion and retain your job. Well, that lesson was learned today pretty firmly that that's not the case. And there was something in particular that precipitated his firing, as you mentioned, which was his unwillingness to fire another special agent who had become a pilot flying Kash Patel around in the FBI jet, but had previously worked on the Mar-a-Lago case, investigating Donald Trump over the classified documents matter. And so he'd become the target of far-right activists online. They were calling for his ouster. Apparently, people decided that he should go, and Driscoll, who was his nominal boss, was unwilling to fire him. Also removed Steve Jensen, who has been the target, again, of far-right activists for his involvement in January 6 cases. Nonetheless, he was made the head of the Washington field office. And again, that gave some people some hope that all was not lost, that it was possible to have some dissenting views within the FBI and still function. The message sent today is that that is no longer possible. And morale, I got to tell you, from speaking to people all day today, could not be lower. People are really greeting this with alarm and concern for what it says about where the Trump administration is taking the nation's premier law enforcement agency, Jen.
I mean, Andrew, you spent, of course, a lot of time there as the general counsel. I first want to ask you, I gave this example last night, and I tried to articulate how inappropriate a meeting like the one that happened last night is, where we know that the FBI and personnel was discussed. I mean, the example I gave was, imagine if Vice President Harris held a meeting with Attorney General Garland, FBI Director Christopher Wray, to discuss a political problem that Joe Biden was having. I mean, that is crazy sounding. But help us understand, having spent time in law enforcement and in the legal community, why is that meeting so inappropriate? How is it so inappropriate? And also tell us a little bit more about what you're hearing about people's morale within the FBI.
Sure. I just think it's so great that you are focusing on this, because you have been in the White House. I have been at the FBI. I've been at the department. I want to make sure everyone understands this does not happen under any normal administration, Republican or Democratic. I remember working a million years ago on the Enron case that was under a Republican administration. And there were all sorts of concerns that people in the press had about, whether Dick Cheney was going to sort of weigh in because of some purported friendship with Ken Lay, the chairman of Enron. And I can tell you that it was a third rail. The White House would not and did not become involved in that case. The then acting Attorney General, Larry Thompson, would never in a million years engage in that conduct, precisely because in the post-Watergate era, you want law enforcement to decide things based on the facts and based on the law. And the one sort of slight amendment I would make to Ken's point is it's not just the question of dissenting. It's that these are people who are actually talking about facts. Facts matter. And the dissent is because they're actually standing up and speaking facts. Let's just broaden that out. We have the president getting rid of the person who decided that the labor statistics were going to be presented accurately, they're gotten rid of. You have Robert Kennedy Jr. getting rid of people at the CDC and the FDA because he doesn't like what they have to say about the efficacy, the scientific efficacy of vaccines. This is no different in a law enforcement context, which is people who are governed by facts and law are being removed. And you have to ask yourself, for all of those things, is to look at it as a piece in terms of what the administration is doing to be able to tell a story that will not go challenged by actual facts.
One of the things, and thank you for really putting a fine point on that. And I mean, when the Attorney General walked through the White House, I would kind of move in the other direction. You know, I mean, if the director of the FBI, you never even wanted to appear like there was a discussion that was inappropriate. And I'm sure that was the case in many, many prior administrations, not just Democratic ones. Ken, let me ask you, because you touched on this and about the morale, and Andrew did too. And I think that's so important for people to understand, because the FBI agents, many are in Washington, but many are across the country, in bureaus across the country. They are investigating all sorts of crimes, crime waves, white collar crime, all sorts of things. The FBI Agents Association, I just read their statement in the lead into this, and it basically alluded to them. Agents need to be focused on their work and not on potentially being illegally fired based on their assignments. And when you talk to people about the morale issue, how is that impacting their ability to do their work? Are there people who are questioning whether they can stay there? What are you hearing from these agents you're talking to?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because in addition to this wave of firings, a lot of people, good people, have left voluntarily. Decades of experience in counterterrorism, counterintelligence, white-collar crime has walked out of that building, and also the Justice Department, because they just don't want to work in this environment. Because, as Andrew described, it is about the sort of the reality-based community versus this fantastical web of conspiracy theories that is being woven. And let's not forget, the FBI, as Andrew can attest, was generally a small C conservative Republican leaning organization, especially the special agent community. These are law enforcement agents, and they tend to be right of center in their politics. But yet, for some of these people, that isn't enough. That's not to keep them in good stead with the Trump administration and with the men, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who are now leading the FBI. You know, I spoke to a source the other day who mentioned that a new special agent in charge had come into their field office. This is not in Washington. As you said, this is out in the country. And this person had a good reputation as a solid agent. But the source said that this person, every other sentence was praising Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. He said it felt like North Korea. It was like, he said he felt sorry for this person. He couldn't believe that he was having to debase himself in that way. That's the kind of culture that we are seeing now in parts of the FBI. And a lot of people just don't have, they're just not there for that, and they are trying to leave.